Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by the British Institute of Kitchen, Bedroom and Bathroom Installation. My name is Louis Mendes. I hope you guys are well. On this week's show, we will, of course, be looking back at yesterday's 1-0 opening day win against Leyton Orient at the Valley. Joining me to bask in the glory of those 3 points. First up, Mr. Tom Wallen. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm basking in your graph as well. Very
Oh,
excited
yeah.
to see that a bit later.
Oh, yeah, I have to get the graph up on screen a bit later. It's got to be the best graph you've ever seen. Currently,
I'd say
we
so.
are on record. We're on course for quite an amazing amount of points at this stage of the season. Also joining us on the bottom of the screen there is Joe Puddyfoot. How you doing, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely knackered. It was a busy day in the ground yesterday, which meant it was a busy day for me. But no, it's good. It's good to get off to a win, and certainly lots of happy faces around. So that makes everybody a bit happier, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really was an enjoyable day at the Valley yesterday. Obviously, we will talk about the performance against Leyton Orient. We're going to hear the goal in a few moments' time. We will, of course, hear from the ADDICKS boss, Dean Holden. We've also got an interview with the goalkeeper, Ashley Maynard-Brewer, from yesterday. We want to hear from you guys as well. Morning to everyone who's joining us in the YouTube chat. There's loads of people in there saying hello, including All Hell Let Loose, is saying that he's missing Laura Woods on ITV. This better be a good one, Louis. What a sacrifice you've made there. Thank you for joining us. So yeah, make sure you have your say in the chat on this result that we got yesterday against Leyton Orient. How are you feeling after yesterday's game? Tell us how much you enjoyed the Valley yesterday as well, because obviously it was quite full, and it just felt different to me yesterday. And I made this point quite a lot on Thursday's show. Like there's a lot of concentrating on football at the moment, which is just good. Like we've had enough of talking about ownership nonsense, and yesterday was purely just worrying about the football and enjoying a performance. You know, at stages it was tough for us. Orient made it difficult for us, but yeah, whatever you want to say, have your say in the chat. You can also tweet us at Charlton Live or email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. Later on in the show as well, hopefully we've got a guest fan joining us, Ryan Harwood, who sits in the covered end, is going to join us later on in the show. So, Tom, just before we hear the goal, an interesting one yesterday. I think we were worthy of the 3 points. It wasn't exactly plain sailing. It wasn't a swashbuckling performance overall, but we did what we had to do against an Orient side who I thought played quite well.
Yeah, I thought Orient was sloppy at times and made some silly mistakes, but overall, as a team, they're obviously newly promoted. They're London-based. They've filled the away end. It was never going to be an easy task, and there's a lot of pressure on our shoulders this year. I can't remember whether it was you had said it to Dean or Dean had said generally, but we're going to be a bit of a scout for teams this season, and so we need to back that up with performances. And I think I said it on Twitter yesterday. It probably wasn't the most complete performance we're ever going to see, but it was functional. Maynard-Brewer didn't have a huge amount to do. I think you're right. I said we rode our luck a little bit, and I think we did. But I think defensively we looked okay. And going forward, particularly for those first 20 minutes or so, we looked so dangerous. I mean, Corey had one of the best games I've seen him have. That poor old right back for Leyton Orient will have had a tough night last night. But yeah, I think I got the feeling that when it clicks, I think we're going to be a very dangerous side. And I don't think it has quite clicked yet, and that's to be expected. But it was a functional performance. We got the 3 points. And like you've just said there, I said it after the game, it all just felt a bit different yesterday. It feels like there is potential in this team, and we're right on the cusp potentially of something happening. And that doesn't mean we're going to go and rob the league like the graph currently says, but it means we could do. I think it means we could go and have a very good season. And I think I talked a lot on Thursday about how excited I was to get back to the Valley. And I feel that performance has kind of justified that feeling. As I say, not the best performance in the world, but a complete performance, and most importantly, the win.
Yeah, and as I said, I thought Orient. I thought defensively they were quite good, and we needed, as Tom mentioned there, the skill and the pace of Corey Blackett-Taylor on the wing to create that moment for the goal. And you had a few moments like that in the game, but overall, I do feel like we were made to work for that one yesterday, Joe, and that's probably what makes it more satisfying.
I think we were made to work for it. I think we made ourselves work for it, though, a little bit. Because after that bright 20 minutes, we think we abandoned some of the stuff that really was getting us success, and pushed. Both Fraser and Anson were running in behind, but it just meant that there was quite a big gap in the middle of the field where there was nobody to play some passes, and we were sort of restricted to that long ball. And the goal came for me from the fact that we had two midfielders breaking into the box from behind play. So we'd created a little bit of space, which gives Corey that opportunity to get in. But as soon as he had that space yesterday, he really did take their right back to task. And it's the one concern about me for him being at left wing back is, are we going to get him into those positions enough? And if we get him into those positions enough, are we going to leave ourselves a bit open? Thomas obviously helps that being a bit more left-sided as a centre back. But for them, I think Leyton Orient would be proud of how they limited us. Sorry if anyone can hear my smoke alarm going off. I don't know what Emma's doing downstairs, but apparently burning the house down. So yeah, I think they would be proud of how they limited us yesterday. But I do think that we need to take charge of that more. And teams are going to sit in a bit like Orient against us this season, especially when we don't have a big aerial threat in the side, because Alfie May is so much better in behind. So promising, but I'd like to see us challenge them a little bit more than we did, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a breakdown in management there from me, is that we don't actually have an evacuation plan for Charlton Live. That's something I need to think about now, in case Joe's going to burn his house down every time we do the show. Right, let's have a listen to the goal from Charlton TV yesterday. The commentators were Terry Smith and Greg Stubley.
And May, picked off by James, who's having a good game at centre-half for him. Ball forward is poor, though, by the visitors, as Terrell Thomas out to left to Blackett-Taylor. Will take on Hunt again. Blackett-Taylor goes beyond Hunt. He's got space as well. Blackett-Taylor, 4 in the box. Ball across, it's tapped home! And it's the skipper, George Dobson! The first goal of the season goes the way of Charlton's captain. And just before half-time, the Addicks have a lead.
Well, Blackett-Taylor's been threatening down that left-hand side, but the end result just hasn't been there. But on this occasion, pouncing on a mistake by Orient on that left-hand side. Blackett-Taylor going past his man at will, and he has the option to just hit it in, but he takes his time, then picks out the end. Options either Alfie May or George Dobson, and it's the Charlton skipper who scores the Addicks' first goal of a new era.
There we go. That's the goal from Charlton TV yesterday. Thanks to the boys there with the commentating. The goal itself, Leyton Orient overplayed and gave the ball away inside their own half, and Blackett-Taylor really made them pay, Tom. We were sort of discussing towards the end of Nathan saying that Joe's house is on fire, just like Corey Blackett-Taylor's yesterday. It was yesterday. We said towards the end of last season, like, when we were deciding which players we'd keep and which players we think could play a part in a promotion-winning side, I think Blackett-Taylor was one that we definitely said keep. I don't know if we said he was consistent enough to play week in, week out in a promotion-winning side. But, I mean, he started well yesterday. His stats in the second half of last season before getting injured were pretty handy as well. The majority of his goals came in the second half of last season. Still needs more assists. I think it was only 3 assists for him last season, or 4. So he's got 1 already after 1 game. That's a promising start. And that end product that we saw yesterday is what we want to see more consistently from him.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be surprised if he has many games like that. Not because of his ability, but because I just think that right back just had a poor game. But that was one of, as I said earlier, one of Corey's better games as well. And as you say, we get that in spells, don't we? But we need that consistency. I think, obviously, Eden wasn't or isn't fully fit yet, but obviously came on towards the end of the game. And I think it'll be interesting when he's up to speed, what Dean decides to do, which games he decides to play, which of them, and whether tactically that's a decision or whether it's just down to consistency and performance. Because maybe having someone like Eden behind him is going to push Corey to perform more consistently now. Even in that first half, they were putting 2 or 3 men on him at times. It didn't seem to bother him. And if we get that sort of Corey week in, week out, then we've got a very dangerous player there. But as you say, sadly, we don't get that all the time. But I was pleased to see him start. He was somebody we've spoken a lot about, obviously offline during pre-season, about who's going to play there and can he do it and is he going to be capable. And certainly he was yesterday, and it's about kicking on from that now. And again, we're one game into the season, so we don't want to read too much into it. But it's about, okay, what can these players take from that, and how can they build on it? So for someone like Corey, you just want to go, yeah, good game, good performance, up there with one of the best performances of the 11 that played, or however many actually came on the pitch. But go and do it again now. Go and do it again. You'd imagine he'll get rested on Tuesday, but Peterborough away is a very different test. Obviously, probably a better team and an away game, so going to play slightly differently. So can he do it again there, or will we put Eden in instead? So, yeah, I thought it was a solid performance. I think we need to see that consistently now. I think we've said that about many of the players we said we'd keep, like Scott Fraser being another example. But if we can, as I say, we've got a hell of a player there.
76 Rufus says it was a solid performance, but nothing spectacular. We need to take the chances we earn. Looking at other games yesterday, there are going to be a lot tougher teams to play. Jason says was very impressed by the defence when Orient got into our half, but still a bit uneasy about how easily they got into our half. But it's only one game. The team looks promising. Yeah, because, I mean, when you look to that first 5 minutes or so yesterday, Joe, and Alfie May carved out that superb chance for himself, like just a wonderful touch inside the penalty area to create the space for the shot. And it looked like a really good save from Sol Bryn from where I was sat. I was kind of hoping that was going to be the tone set for the afternoon. We were going to create chances. We were going to get the ball into Alfie. And actually, in terms of clear-cut chances, there wasn't a great deal after that until the goal. I think Alfie had a free kick that went wide. I felt it was, like I say, it wasn't swashbuckling. It wasn't always free-flowing, which I hope means we've got another gear to step into more so than what we saw yesterday.
Yeah. I mean that is the thing. We didn't blow Orient away. We beat them, and sometimes first game of the season you take that. You got to win the tricky games. You got to win the games where you're not your absolute best as well, and that is how you get promoted out of any division or win any title, is winning the games where you're not at your absolute best. I do think that Kamara coming on was a bit of a game changer, even though it was late in terms of the way that he was able to create space for other people and open Orient up, and they were looking to chase it a little bit more. So maybe it's a bit generous to him, but I do think that he has that potential, even though Nath obviously cursed him in the last minute when he had that glorious opportunity. But we're going to have to find ways to break teams down, and I think we're still short of a few players to do that, really. I think yesterday showed that there's not a lot of strength in depth still in this squad. And if we're going to play the three, and we're gonna sort of try and put pressure on people, and we're going to press high, we're going to have to find ways other than just counter-attacking to get teams to open up and move people around. And Pratley, for example, in their midfield, he didn't seem to struggle keeping tabs on Fraser for most of the game. So if Pratley's able to do it, then certainly younger, more marauding midfielders are gonna be having some success against us. So it's gonna be a challenge. I think for us, we need to get those players in a little bit more. Those players who can, like Raksaki, just carve open a chance out of absolutely nothing. And it's good to see that we do have the likes of May in the box, and that chance was phenomenal play. No one that we had in our squad over the last 4 or 5 seasons would have got that shot away. So that's a real game changer. We need a couple of more around him to really enable him to get that space and get those opportunities, and then get the 3-4-0 results that you're going to need to be up towards the top of the table.
Norman says, nice 3 points, but early days. Hopefully we will get better. Even a couple more players at least through the door would be nice. We should actually congratulate Norman as well. If anyone stayed around at half time, Norman Ellis was the man who did the crossbar challenge yesterday, and that's generally one of the best attempts we've had in a long, long time. He was unlucky not to walk away with the 10 grand. It wasn't far off at all. Paul Davenport says, Karoy, Nathan and Alfie starting gave us much more mobility. So many times in the past couple of seasons, our press has been Colander-like, leaky, not anymore. Yeah, I mean, the starting lineup, there was a few players that stood out as being slightly surprising. I think Hector not starting with Thomas coming in his place was reasonably surprising. And obviously, Karoy, who just signed his 4-year deal yesterday, starting over Camara. I think, well, we hear from Dean, it's more to do with fitness at the moment. And I think once Pan's ready, then he will certainly be starting games. But yeah, a bit of a surprise with some of the young players. Obviously, Nathan started ahead of Egbo. And again, I asked Dean about Egbo, which we'll hear in a few moments' time, and it sounds like that's just purely he's behind Nathan Asimwe in the pecking order. Tom, what was your sort of views when you saw the lineups coming out?
Yeah, I think I was more surprised about Anderson. I think we'd spoken a little bit about Asimwe on Thursday's show, and based on pre-season, I thought he deserved his chance. It's still a risk, of course, and it's still a big call, but yeah, I was delighted to see him, and I thought he kind of fully justified that position. I thought he had a great game. Kuroi, I haven't seen a huge amount of, and so I was a little bit more surprised. But as you say, Camara is not fully fit yet. And I thought, particularly in the second half, he started to get a little bit tired and struggled a little bit. I thought when Camara came on, gave us those fresh legs, and even just in that sort of 10, 15-minute cameo, you can see what he's capable of. And you can see why Nath was raving about him so much on Thursday's show. So, like you, I expect him to probably be a starter going forward once he's up to speed. But someone like Kuroi, I think, as that comment you put up said, just gave us that mobility and that energy in the middle. And again, particularly in those opening stages of the game, that press was kind of swarming. But I don't mean swarming like, kids football where everybody's just chasing the ball. They were swarming and they were hunting in packs and they were pressing as a unit. And for somebody that young to get up to speed like that is obviously exciting. But I think Dean said it in his post-match, didn't he, that these youngsters, I think, have played together for a long time. And so they understand each other. They know where each other are going to be. And actually that can go a long way in football. So, yeah, I don't think anybody had a bad game yesterday at all. I thought Asimwe was probably, out of the youngsters, one who maybe stood out at most. But yeah, I think it's exciting. I wouldn't say, I don't think we can chop and change every week. And I wouldn't say we've got a comprehensive squad yet. But to be able to bring the likes of Michael Hector off the bench to shore things up and to bring Camara off the bench to give some legs in midfield, even while we're, 3 or 4 players short, is exciting for the team. And I think if we can continue to give faith in those youngsters, maybe give them some game time, but not rely on them too heavily, as we've spoken about many times over the past few years, it gives an extra dimension to our game. So, yeah, delighted to see them get their chance yesterday. And obviously to come off with a win will give them all huge confidence.
Jonathan saying, I think Eden's cameo off the bench has gone under the radar. It was very impressive. And Will says, I agree with that. He looked great. Camera was the real wow sub, though. He looked superb with the ball at his feet. Also, we'll come on to Pan in a minute and try and gloss over the glaring mist, Joe. But yeah, Teo Eden coming on. What did you make of him? It's first chance we've really had to properly see him.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed, actually. I think he is the left wing back in the squad. And against those teams like Peterborough, it might not be this one because obviously he's a little bit soon for him, but against those teams who are expecting to be under more pressure, I think that he will probably get the starting berth over Corey in that position just because of that defensive solidity. But what I was impressed by was how he was able to wriggle out of a couple of tight situations and find some good bits of space. And even that chance at the end, that came from him really counter-pressing and breaking onto the ball and changing the flow of the game from defence to attack. So we've not had a proper left-sided defender of that quality for a long, long time. And this is all on 15 minutes, and next week he might be like all of the other left-sided defenders, where it's sort of a bit of a stopgap. But if he can carry on that form, then I think he could be a real sort of game changer again for us. And like all of the signings, he strikes you immediately as being better than the standard that we've endured in these last few seasons. And the more players that we get that push on and are proper first teamers and are taking us that step forward, it's a building block not just for this season, but moving forward for seasons to come. So even if it isn't this season, then you feel like we're moving in the right direction. So yeah, impressive, but it's 15 minutes. I will accept that.
Yeah. Ian's saying, I can't see us getting away another month without an extra striker. So obviously, as we predicted on Thursday's show, Tyrese Campbell started up alongside Alfie May. I mean, Pete saying to give Alfie May a tall player up front to play with whilst Leeburn isn't fit. Is it worth giving McGrandles a try up front to see what happens for 15, 20 minutes? I mean, not in my opinion, but yeah, that is a problem. I think, I like Tyrese Campbell. I think he's more dangerous out wide, but it also comes back to the question we said on Thursday once more, which is, we enjoyed Teo coming off the bench on Saturday yesterday, but what does that mean like if we want him to start, obviously it's different types of games, but then we take Corey out the side. And was anyone creating anywhere near as much as Corey did yesterday, other than Alfie May for himself? Probably not, Tom.
Yeah, and I think if we are going to look at some of the, I don't know about negatives, but the things that we need to work on, that was the thing that became apparent to me. It felt at times like we were playing with one up top, and it was just Alfie May, and I think that's because, as you say, Tyrese was kind of drifting a little bit, as you say, because his preferred position is out wide. If he's not capable of playing that wing back role, then it's about where he fits in. But I was saying to the person I sit next to at the game, we were talking about Chucks, and obviously at the moment, sadly, he's taking up a striker position without really giving us any output. And if we're going to get promoted this year, we need probably 3 decent strikers, and strikers that we can rely on. And as you say, I know Miles is injured at the moment, but he'll hopefully be back shortly. We've got Miles and Alfie. We probably need a third that's going to get sort of 10 goals, so that, as you say, we can firstly cope with injuries, and secondly, so that we can rotate for different styles of games. So I agree with that comment. I do think we need a striker. Again, I think we probably said that on Thursday show as well. The question is, who do you go and get? There aren't many strikers out there that are just ready and waiting. There's certainly 10 to 15 goal a season strikers. So yeah, I think, look, Miles and Alfie, you'd assume, are going to be the starting 2 most games, but you're then relying on them to stay fit all season, and I don't think that's going to happen. So we're going to have to invest, unless, of course, Chucks does get fit. But I'm fully conscious that when I say that, I think we're all in agreement that it's unlikely. And if he does, how long is he going to stay fit for? Which is sad, because, again, what we were saying yesterday at the game was how good can he be when he does play? But we need somebody who can play week in, week out. And sadly, he's not the one. So, yeah, it'll be interesting what they do with him and what they do in that striker department. But I agree. I think we probably do need one more. I want Therese to get game time for sure. And I think he earned it from last year. But going back to my answer previously, we don't want to kind of throw these youngsters in and then just play them week in, week out. So I think taking him out the firing line for a few weeks every now and again is probably a good thing too. And ultimately, that'll be Miles that comes in. But I think if we could get somebody else, it will add to that strength in depth on the bench and give us an extra dimension going forwards as well.
Yeah, Dan saying the only thing that annoyed me yesterday at the end was when Kirk didn't shoot when their keeper was up. Yeah, the keeper came up for a corner. We got it clear, and Kirk had it on the right-hand side, sort of halfway. And yeah, I don't think he got the shot away in the end, or he certainly charged down for a throw. Dan also mentioned that he thought that Lloyd Jones was unreal yesterday. It'd be nice to sort of concentrate on the defensive display to an extent. So Ash made that one good save in the first half from Theo Archibald, where he cut in. And to be fair to Ash, he got a palm on it, but also he did push it out into the middle. So we reasonably lucky it fell to a red shirt there. But in the second half, they had a long-range shot near the end, which actually palmed down. And they had one more shot on target, which I can't actually remember. Then I do remember us getting a few blocks in. I mean, what did we make of the defensive performance yesterday? I mean, all hell let loose. Joe has pointed out that he thinks that Clark Harris and Mason Clark will give us far more problems than Leyton Orient did. So we probably will have more difficult games. But defensively, I mean, it was streets apart from the performance against Aberdeen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, you referenced one where Maynard-Brewer palmed it out, but I think that exemplified the level of defender that Lloyd Jones is, in the way that he tracked his striker the whole way. He didn't let him go off his shoulder, which we did so many times last season, and strikers were in space on their own. So when Ash actually palmed it in the direction of their striker, the defender was there first. It's a novel concept, really, for us over the last couple of years. But all the defenders, I think, did well. Ness is so good in the middle there. I know he's not maybe as good on the ball as Hector in terms of some of those long range passes, but as a defender, one-on-one, I don't think we've got a better defender in the squad in that centre back position. I thought Thomas did well. I think he's much more suited to that side, and probably we missed him against Aberdeen in terms of they were playing down the sides of our defence and exposing Nest, who is a little bit less comfortable out there. And Maynard-Brewer, I've been so impressed with him in pre-season. I know he had a couple of iffy ones at the end of last year, but certainly in pre-season he's been so strong, and the saves that he did make, I thought, were good saves yesterday. Even that one at the end, which looked like it really swerved right in front of him, got a hand to it and was there. There's a lot of calmness as well across the whole unit. The challenge is going to be when a team's getting in behind Corey, because he doesn't want to go backwards. So that's where we need Eden really to be in the squad to give us the defensive stability going back. And I am a bit concerned about this system with only 2 or 3, if you're going to include Egbo in the squad, but 3 out and out wing backs, because you only need an injury on the left, and then we're going to be exposed in that way. But for now, let's take it as a good improvement from Aberdeen. But there are going to be sterner tests to come, and it's about how we respond to that and how we adjust our style for the teams that are going to take us to task a little bit more.
Excellent stuff. Right, let's just bring this up just very briefly then. So I know Tom's been absolutely gagging to see the updated graph that shows, based on a points per game ratio at this moment, we're on target for 138 points this season, Tom. I mean, that would be some achievement, but we're basically halfway there.
It's a lot of points, isn't it? Yeah, that's I'd take that, I think, as things go. But yeah, I think we said it, didn't we? That obviously the graph got introduced 10, 15 games into last season. So obviously today either was going to have us rock bottom or win in the league with 46 wins out of 46. So yeah, I think, look, obviously it looks nice at the moment, but I expect that the graph is going to stay maybe not quite that high, but it's going to stay around that line a lot more than it was last year. And again, early days, but I go back to the point I made yesterday. Things just felt a little bit different yesterday. I thought, yeah, there just seems to be a shift. And I don't know if we're going to talk about the thing they did at the end of the game or not, but even that, and I know people didn't particularly like it, but there is something they're trying to do here, right? And it didn't feel like that really last year. That Ipswich 4-4 with Bengana running down the touchline when he got sent off and pounding his chest, that was kind of the closest we got. Maybe the Old Trafford game as well, and the atmosphere up there. But even yesterday, first game of the season, to get that many numbers through, it's encouraging. And to my mind, the graph backs all of that up. And we're going to win the league with 46 wins out of 46. So, yeah, good time to be a Charlton fan.
Yeah, something to look forward to. I don't think we're going to see the graph for another 10 games now. It was always going to be funny this week because, as you say, it was either going to be 46 wins or 0 points. So we're not going to see it for a little while now, because let's get our feet under the table. Let's see how we get on for the next 10 games. And then maybe we'll have a real idea of where we're going to be at the end of the season. Right, let's hear from the Addicks manager, Dean Holden, shall we? I spoke to him after yesterday's win against Leyton Orient, and this is what he had to say.
Points on the opening day, the perfect way to start the season.
Yeah, really important, I think, particularly when you've got such a big crowd in the Valley today for the first time in a long time. There's a lot of expectant supporters turning up with a lot of optimism. I think it's important that they see a team that's shown what we did today, which is we started really well. We started with real intent in the game. We ran all over Leyton Orient. We knew they were a team that had obviously had a lot of success winning the title last year, playing a certain style, and they want to play on their terms at times. So we needed to get on top of them and force mistakes, which we did. We've had the big chance for Alfie May early on, and I thought we went in 1-0 deservedly in the lead at that point. And we had 2 big chances, haven't we, I think, in the second half. We've had a lot of action around their box. We had the one from Kamari puts wide, and obviously TC 1-on-1. So I think we should have won more comfortably. Having said that, we looked really solid defensively today, which was a bit of a concern last week against Aberdeen. So we've had a lot of work to do this week, but credit to the players, they've took that on board. And yeah, I think we outran them today. I thought we played some excellent stuff. I think Corey Blackett-Taylor in that first half in particular gave them real trouble. TC the same. And yeah, I suppose Scotty Fraser picking up a slight niggle is the only real negative really on a really good day.
Yeah, Richie's just coming in, was quite proud of his team's performance, so it wasn't like an easy day today. Your team had to work hard for that.
Yeah, I think everybody's seen us as the favourites, didn't they, if you look at the size of the clubs and the fact they were in League 2 last year. But it was always going to be a difficult game. They've got really good players. El Mazzouni's an excellent player, was quiet today. If you think about Archibald on the side, can be deadly at times. And he had that one moment in the first half when they get the ball to him on the counter attack and Ash makes a save. But I think Ash has had 2 saves to make all game. And yeah, I think it was a good platform for us. There's still loads to do, of course there is, with the ball defensively, but set pieces, everything. But I think it was a real nice platform to see a team that's shown different sides to the game today.
Something that Corey's probably got better at second half of last season. Obviously started off well today with his end products. That's the perfect start for him.
Yeah, exactly that. You get him the ball in them areas, you know he's going to give anybody problems. He's great feet and he pace to burn. He's obviously the end product off that left foot. We'll keep working with him, but I think defensively as well today we've worked hard with him this week. We've done a lot of team play. We've done a lot of what if scenarios. The ball's in a certain part of the pitch. Where do we need to be defensively? So I've done quite a bit of mileage up and down the training pitch this week, sort of on the side of the line, talking to him, trying to help him, just because he's an attacking type player who's always thinking about attacking, and to play that position, we need him at times just to be a little bit more safer. But I thought he did that really well today, I have to say.
Yeah, had two 18-year-olds starting today. Obviously, Karoi's got his new deal, and Nathan. Some might have been surprised to see him in there so young, but what did you make of their performances?
Yeah, I think Karoi grew into the game. I remember the big tackle on the halfway line. He at times maybe got caught on the ball a little bit. Needs to move the ball a little bit quicker. But he's a fantastic young player. He's had a really emotional week with his new contract and finding out he was making his league debut, and his mate Nath next to him as well, very, very good. So I think we had 6 academy graduates in the starting 11 and 2 debuts, so that's really pleasing, I have to say.
Yeah, you're showing your faith with him. It's a 4-year deal.
Yeah, real intent from the football club, which I'm delighted about, and again, the fact that Karoi so quickly just wanted to get it signed, he really believes this is the place for him. So yeah, another one to come through the academy. We didn't quite know going into the start of pre-season who was going to come through and be in and around the first team. We had high hopes for a number of the youngsters, but you never quite know, do you? And them two in particular have done fantastically well.
New celebration at the end, if you haven't seen here at the Valley before. Tell us about that.
Off the cuff, I think it's, as I say there, we're trying to keep building this connection, and obviously we've seen it before at other football clubs. We're not trying to copy anything. We're trying to show that us as a group of players and staff that we're with the guys in the stand. You can't separate us, and it was a nice moment at the end, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the big crowd in today. They sold more tickets today than they had at any point last season. Would you feel like that good feeling is coming back? Certainly fans I've spoken to are going to burden you with a bit of expectation this season as well, but you feel like you're in a good place with the supporters now? Yeah,
bring that on. That's what fans want, don't they? They want to see a team that they're excited to go and watch, and we want to be a team that gives them everything. We want to represent them in the right way and the values of this part of the world. So I think you can't argue with that today. I think that we played some excellent stuff, should have won the game by more, but certainly it was a team that was prepared to fight and scrap and tackle and run in difficult conditions. Got the job done.
Pan brought some energy when he came on. What was the reason he couldn't start? Is he just not quite ready, or?
Oh, he's got great feet, hasn't he? I mean, there's a couple of moments there on the turnover. Yeah, he's not played football for a long time and played minimal minutes throughout pre-season. He's had a broken pre-season, as have a lot of our recruits, to be fair, for different reasons. If you think I thought Tayo Holden, when he come on, looked really sharp. Tayo, sorry, he'll kick off, calling him the wrong, pronouncing it wrong. But he had a different pre-season. He was stuck with a group of 4 players at Blackburn for the majority of it, so obviously wasn't up to speed and playing any games. Terry Taylor, not quite ready just yet for today. He's had an ankle operation and again not played any minutes. So these new guys are getting up to speed. But really pleased with the spirit, really pleased the way they've settled in, and like I say, the youngsters as well. It's the dressing room was a good place to be at the end of the game.
Yeah, no Manny today. He was. I heard he was down the training ground this morning. What's the deal with him? Is he just not fit, or? No,
he's fit. He's fit. He's fighting with Nathan in that position, and obviously Nathan, we feel, has got ahead of him. And obviously you can't cover, different on Tuesday night in the game, because we'll have 9 subs, I believe, for the game against Newport. But you can't pick everybody, unfortunately. It's the hardest part of the job, picking a team and leaving players out. It really is. But you've got to make them calls and find the right balance for the bench, and I think we did that. As I say, I think Tayo coming on in front of Terrell Thomas, just to change the system for that last 10 minutes to stiffen us up, I thought worked really well.
Yeah, that was going to be my final question. Obviously, Newport on Tuesday. League Cup meant a lot to Charlton fans last season because we got to go to Old Trafford. But what sort of side do you think there will be changes? Sort of a chance to see some other players on Tuesday? Yeah,
we have to use it for them reasons, purely because lads are not up to speed, and we had a game there in the week, didn't we, over at Slough? But certain players couldn't play because it was on AstroTurf. So we'll make sure that the players that need minutes will get minutes, and there will be changes. But I just said to the players in there that I don't believe we'll be weakening the team. Far from it. I think we're building a really good squad, and the perception or externally it might look like we make quite a few changes or whatever we decide to do. We're going there to win the game. This club's not had a winning mentality for quite a while now, so the reason everybody enjoyed Old Trafford so much is because the players last season took care of the earlier rounds when they're not so glamorous. So we'll go there with the right attitude and hopefully win the game.
Cheers, Dean.
Thank you.
Richie said that he'd be surprised if you didn't finish in the top 4, which is quite a bold statement.
Them or us?
You.
Did I?
Yeah.
Don't care what he says.
Do you feel that weight of expectancy this season or not?
I think there's a lot of optimism around. You've got to be a certain character to play in a place like this. There's a big crowd behind the team today, and that's been a big part of our recruitment. We're getting the right leaders in the building, so no problem if people externally want to have us down as a favourites or not. Couldn't give a monkeys. We've got internal targets, and you don't get to the prize at the end of it, whatever that prize is, unless you take care of the daily business. So I've been really pleased with pre-season, really pleased, and particularly on the back of last week's sort of setback. I did particularly enjoy the game all Saturday night, all Sunday actually, but Monday through to today, I've been really pleased with the way the lads have got back on the bike again, and certain things we didn't do so well last week, we really put right today, and that's a sign of a good team taking information on and going doing it in a pressured environment. It was, because there's a big expecting crowd behind us, but we want this place rocking. It was really important to win today and to give the fans something to shout about, because, like I said there'll be so many of them going home now thinking that they like what they see here. There's some energy on the pitch. There's players prepared to do the dirty work, and to the likes of Pan at the end and the goal that we scored. There's good, exciting moments. I thought it was an exciting game at times today. So the quicker we can get this place as full as possible, we'll have a real chance.
Thank you.
Thinking about a new kitchen or bathroom? Find professional, independent local installers with free home surveys, itemised quotes and protected payments, trading standards approved contracts, and workmanship warranties. The British Institute of Kitchen, Bedroom, Bathroom Installations accredits installers to ensure they are police checked, fully insured, and experienced. Take the risk out of home improvement. Visit bikbbi.org.uk.
Hello, fellow addicts. I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the River. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. Just before the advert break there, we heard from the Addicks boss, Dean Holden, after yesterday's 1-0 win over Leyton Orient at the Valley. A couple of talking points that come out of it. I mean, firstly, Tom, dealing with expectation. Last season, not the top 20 pod and all the EFL podcasts and papers and stuff weren't mentioning us with regards to being in and around the playoffs, and for very good reason. But this year they are. So we have that level that will affect the way that teams come and play against us. It will affect the mindset of our players. How easy do you think that is to deal with? I mean, it's better than not being talked about. Last season was a bit embarrassing, really.
Yeah, I think we should be being talked about in this league. I don't think we should be arrogant about it, but ultimately we should be looking at getting out of this league and stabilising ourselves as a championship club. So I'd be worried about it if Dean's policy for recruitment wasn't what it was in terms of the sort of people he was getting in, and maybe the egos running away with it or attitudes not being right. But I think with the sort of players that Dean's bringing in, and with Dean himself and the way he talks, I don't think that pressure will be a hindrance. I think he will hopefully keep people internal focused. As he said, they've got their own internal targets. And if we're being spoken about, then we should take that as a compliment. And I think it's great. If we're there to be shot down, then bring it and let's see what we can do. And ultimately, if we want to go up, we're going to have to deal with that pressure. So, yeah, I'm not worried about it at all. I think, as you say, it's much nicer to be talked about than just completely ignored. Obviously, we haven't had enough game time yet to establish whether that chat and those predictions are well-founded or not. But based on what I saw yesterday and based on the way people are talking, there's definitely a shift from last season and the season before. So, yeah, I'm a lot more optimistic than I have been in recent years. And, I think it's a nice pressure to have. And, if we can get crowds like we did yesterday, if we can get that mentality that we're a team pushing for promotion already, because that season we went up under Bowyer, particularly towards the back end where we were smashing teams week in, week out, it felt like, you expect the crowds to build at that point in the season. But if we can keep these crowds up in the early stages, then that's a good sign. And that mentality has to go through from fans all the way through to players that we're a club that want to go up. And if we can all get that, then I think we could do something this year.
Now, the other talking point from yesterday, and I'm going to bring this up on the screen for those of you watching via YouTube, was the impromptu celebration that Dean had the players doing after the game. The Liverpool 2, West Brom 2 celebration, we called it, where everyone links arms in front of the covered end and celebrates in front of the fans. And obviously, this caused a bit of conversation. I put a video of it up on social media yesterday, Joe, and we're getting fans of Millwall, Palace, and Metrogas under 12 girls taking a mick out of us on social media. I did ask Dean about it just for his views on how it came about. I'll put it in the chat as well. Did people like it? Will said it felt a bit forced. Will says you have to force things to implement change. He was replying to Phil earlier up in the chat, who said it felt a bit forced. What did you think of it, Joe?
I didn't like it. I wasn't there to see it because obviously we have to run out to get behind the bar. So literally full time, and I sprint. So I miss all of that frivolity. But I do always listen out for the cheer when people jump out the tunnel, and I think that does the job. That is the connection between the players and the fans, and it's a very Charlton thing. Other clubs have got upset with it at times, even when we've done it away. Where maybe we've nicked a draw and someone's jumped out the tunnel. But the tunnel jump is a celebration that involves the fans. Everyone sort of cheers, it builds, that atmosphere is there. I don't think we need to take things from other clubs necessarily to do it. But if it's something that the players really buy into and it makes a difference for them, then maybe we need to get on board and get behind it. But I just think that in the search of new traditions, sometimes the old traditions can get lost. And that tunnel jump is something that I wouldn't want to see become a secondary thing, because I do think that is part of Charlton's DNA, and new owners come in and they do change things, and new management comes in and they do change things. But you've got to change around the fringes rather than something like that. And we're opening ourselves up, I think, to a bit of stick as well. And it's been proven because Metrogas under 12 girls really put the boot in, and that's not necessarily the kind of feeling I want at the end of a game. But Dean, at the end of the day, he's got to do what he thinks right for the squad. Some people will like it, some people won't. I'll generally be the person that doesn't like things, as has been pointed out in the comments before.
Yeah, Dean. Obviously, it's about togetherness for him. Will said he loved it. I think Dino gets it engaging with the crowd and the fans. Norman said they liked it. It showed togetherness. Dan said the same, togetherness. Like I say, Shiny Phil said it was a bit clumsy and forced, like trying to force the fans to sing Valley Floyd Road at the start of the match, was obviously was a bit of a disaster. Keith said if we see that celebration every week, then we'll be happy at the end of the season, because obviously that means we would have won. Great show of togetherness as well. I think, the comments seem to be largely positive. Like I say, there was a few people who found it a bit cringe. I was very much of the opinion, particularly towards the end of last season, that the love between the players and the fans was nowhere near where it should be. Probably we're partly to blame for that, but also the players' performances last season didn't exactly help, and it needs mending. And I think Dean sees that, and he saw that. Started off with Spain with that great speech he gave to the fans who travelled out there as well. Right, Chris said the celebration involved the whole squad, and I think that was the point. Yeah, a little bit about togetherness. Paul says maybe save it until the last game of the season. David said he thought it was a bit much. We'd only just beaten Leyton Orient. That's why, at least we didn't draw 2-2 with someone. That's the infamous photo of when Jurgen Klopp got the Liverpool players to do it in front of the Kop after they'd drawn 2-2 with West Brom. Partly why we got stick, because it does look like you're emulating that. Right, let's hear from another player involved yesterday, the ADDICKS goalkeeper, Ashley Maynard-Brewer. Got the pick ahead of Ice did yesterday, which was, again, an interesting point. I think the one I was expecting to see, but maybe not one that people were expecting to see at the start of pre-season. So, yeah, a good day for him. Didn't have too much to do, but I spoke to him after the game. This is what Ash had to say.
Yeah, it was pretty perfect. Bigger crowd. From the performance side, I thought it was really good. Yeah, Leyton Orient just coming up from League Two, it's always going to be a intense game, and yeah, I thought the way we went about it, and especially towards the end when we saw out the game, I thought that was great. Shout out Nathan Croy. I thought they were excellent coming into their first league game, and they really stood up.
Yeah, for yourself, I guess, as you said, Charlton saw it out quite well, so you probably didn't have to do too much in terms of goalkeeping today, but that's probably what you want as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I thought the back five was pretty spot on as a team as well. We were, perfect defensively. I think we took on board what we needed to from last week at Aberdeen, and coming into this game we went about our game plan perfectly, and got a clean sheet, which we didn't get enough of last season.
Yeah, what do you think changed from last week against Aberdeen? Because obviously there were some moments of concern last week, but today we didn't really see too much of them.
Just what we call our rest defence. So when we have the ball or it's in the opposition half, making sure we're organised behind the ball.
Okay, excellent. In terms of morale going into the start of the season, how important is it to get off to a good start?
Yeah, it's so important. Just to get us on our way and make sure we stay in the close to the promotion spots. There's nothing worse than having a slow start and having to kind of have a reset. We can go into the next few games full of confidence and get on the front foot and try stay at the top of the table or close to the top of the table.
There's quite a nice moment at the end there when the players sort of celebrated in front of the covered end. Obviously, I haven't seen that before here at the Valley. How did that come about?
It's all the manager. He really wants to make an effort for the team and the team to connect to the fans and get them involved as much, because you saw today when there was however many it was a completely different game, and the atmosphere definitely helped us see it out.
Yeah. There's been a lot of talk sort of externally, listen to your football podcasts and you reading your newspapers, and even Richie said it when he just came here, the Leyton Orient manager, that Charlton are expected to be playoff challengers at minimum this season. How did the side sort of deal with that pressure?
I don't think we read too much into it. We're all pretty optimistic. Going off how we finished last season, we know that we're a team that could really push for promotion this season, but it's a long season, and I think where we went wrong last year was our inconsistency, and it's a very long season and we need to maintain the levels we showed today.
There we go. That's actually Maynard-Brewer after yesterday's game. Pete in the chat says he's missing out on an opportunity for merchandising with the mask. A few exclusive designs for sale in the club shop. I might stick that on our Charlton Live merch store. Actually, that's quite a good idea. That, Pete, don't you? Does anyone want an Ashley Maynard-Brewer Charlton Live mask? Maybe we could do that, Tom. It's started over Eisted. Surprised by that? Not surprised by that. Again, I feel like we predicted that on Thursday. And I wanted him to remain number one because I quite like him. He's had his moments for sure, and next time Ben's on the pod, he'll be talking about his distribution. But overall, I think he's been a solid goalkeeper for us.
Yeah, I don't know, surprised or not, but certainly pleased that he kept his place. Like you, I think he's had to be patient here. Obviously, he's still very young, but had multiple loan spells, and it's been a case of waiting for his chance. And it would have been a shame after just one season to then find himself behind somebody else. Look, Eisted obviously comes with a little bit of a reputation, as we spoke about on Thursday. I'm sure he'll get game time. We've obviously got the Pupper, Paint, Johnston's Pizza, whatever they're calling it, Cup. We've got the League Cup. We'll have the FA Cup. So there's going to be opportunities for Harry to play as well. But yeah, I'm delighted for him. I think his shot stopping is good. As CFC Dan has just said in the chat as well. I know his distribution needs working on, but that's okay. Maybe he can get there, but ultimately he's there to make saves, and I think he does that very, very well. So yeah, I'm delighted for him to have that opportunity. I was delighted he got given the number one jersey when the numbers got announced. I hoped that meant he would start, and I think it's his shirt to lose potentially now certainly for the league team, which is an opportunity for him, and he'll have Eisted breathing down his neck if he makes a mistake. And I think again that competition for place is healthy.
Excellent stuff. Right, anyone who watched our show during the last season will remember that on the Sunday morning pod we like to introduce a guest fan, and that's what we're going to do right now. So welcome to the pod. Ryan, who's our guest fan today, a member of the Charlton Invicta side as well. Ryan, good morning. Thanks for coming to join us. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Particularly after yesterday. Yeah, such a good day to start the season. Yeah,
it really was. So I understand you sit in the north stand, so you probably had a good view of the goal yesterday. That was some pretty impressive work. I mean, what did you make of the performance overall?
Yeah, as chalk and cheese compared to how we started last season. Obviously, a very different tactic to the way we were sort of trying to play under Ben Garner, where he obviously wanted a lot of sort of try and control with the ball to control the game, whereas just I think our intensity, the mentality, and the press is something that I've rarely seen before. Probably never to the degree that Holden has sort of implemented it to the players for this season at Charlton. So yeah, that real intense press is something that I think a lot of everyone around me was getting massively behind. The excitement, we've always had that energy. I think it's why Dobson is such a fan favourite with many people, is his intensity, his ability to press, his intensity in the tackle. And the fact that we had so many players out there, virtually everyone out there, particularly from the starting 11 and some of the early subs, were all showing that same intensity with that press. And it's something that kind of really endears yourself to fans and people behind you. And yeah, just great to see such an attacking style using that press, trying to attack, trying to press so far up the pitch, creating chances that in the past, that goal we scored with George Dobson getting on the end of a cross, how often is that? How often have we seen that since he's been here? Him being able to be the one to break into the box and get an opportunity. And every time we did get the ball out there, where like Blackett-Taylor was it just looked unreal one-on-one against the Orient fullback. He had him every single time, it felt like. So yeah, seeing him get past someone and seeing a box flooded with red shirts attacking is a great sight, you know, from having a spells where we've had maybe one person standing in there, one attacking at the back, to at every opportunity when we're trying to play a ball forward, there being a line of five players all trying to attack in the final third. Yeah, so really exciting stuff. And I think I was excited to see whether sort of Holden's promise of trying to play attacking, exciting football was going to happen. And it really did. You know, there's high risk, high reward. There was a few nervy moments early on, but yeah, it was absolutely worth it for the enjoyment you sort of get out of that intensity and just attacking style.
Yeah, I'm interested to understand how other fans are feeling about what we are actually going to do this season. So obviously, you know, as I've said quite a few times in the show and in the interviews and stuff, that there's a lot of expectation outside of the club. I always feel as fans, we apply higher levels of expectation than reality. But this year it's sort of caught up with us where people outside are tipping us. I mean, did you see us as playoff contenders? Do you think we're there now, or do you think there's still a little bit of work to do as well with the squad?
I think as some of you guys were saying before as well, there's definitely a few areas where you look and say, we've got a good starters. We don't necessarily have the exact depth you might want to sustain a push for promotion for across an entire campaign. But I think we're a lot nearer that sort of level than we have been for a fairly long while. I think, I think there's a difference in mentality of the players we've brought in. Every player we've brought in, there's been a sort of feeling of actually, that's someone who adds to the squad. That's someone who is signing because they want that next step in their career, or they're only going to be joining a team where they think they're in with a chance of hitting the heights they have in the past with the likes of Panucci, Kamara, you know, people coming down from the division above with like Tayo Eden. So yeah, I think I'm feeling a lot more positive than I was, I guess, last season particularly, and over the course of the last few seasons. And there was a lot more optimism, I think, as again you guys have said. There's been a lot more optimism from just the people around us. There's around me and where I've like in the people, other Charlton fans I know, in that there's always been that expectation of we should be competing for a playoff sort of place, but also the realistic sort of pessimism. Yeah, we should be finishing with the top 6, but we're probably going to finish 10th. And that sort of feeling is so sort of omnipresent with most of the Charlton fans I know, of like, we should be here, but really we're going to be here. And it's the first time in a long time where I think a lot of people's actual expectation is matching what the sort of their overarching expectation of, like, we should be in the playoffs, and actually we could do it this year. Like not being overly optimistic, being relatively realistic. It's like, yeah, that this is something that could happen. I think, yeah, there's more of an alignment, and I guess it makes sense that those sort of views of fans aligning with sort of the longer term expectations is also happening outside of the Charlton sort of community and the wider EFL community.
It's nice. It is nice to hear it from other people. That's a big point, right? I mean, Rufus has just said on the chat this season there is a wave of optimism that we haven't felt for years, so we have to ride it for as long as possible. There is a lot of games, particularly on rainy Tuesday evenings, that are going to matter in the future. I mean, obviously, I've spoken. I mean, you've been welcomed very much in the chat because of the shirt you're wearing, by the way, Ryan. Everyone's loving the green and purple monstrosity that we wore back in the 90s, which is one of my favourites. I also spoke about the feeling between the players and the fans. I mean, obviously, because you play for Charlton Invicta, you're involved in something that the club have taken into their community as well. But how are you feeling? Just as a fan, as part of the society that we're bringing together now with the players, which, like I said, I felt at times last season was missing.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought last year, for the most part, it was almost entirely missing. You know, I think there was a few beacons who endeared themselves to the Charlton fans. You know, either like Jezreel Saki through his actions on the pitch, people like Dobson for that same sort of, as I said that before, that intensity, that real endeavour. So I think it's so much different this season. There, just Holden's seems very genuine in his desire to create that connection between the players and the Charlton community, and it's such an easy line, I guess, to trot out as a new manager or as a new ownership to say, hey, we really want this connection between the playing staff and the staff behind the scenes and the supporters who ultimately are the people who make the scene, make it possible. But it takes something different to actually enact that. And Holden seems to have that real leadership and has brought in the right personalities and helped to get the other players we already had here engaged in that sort of community responsibility that I think so well regarded by Charlton fans, and is actually so well known across, I guess, the football world, given how important our community work has been over the years. I think for me, the nearest or the most similar example that I sort of relate the current environment to would be the sort of the year we got promoted under Chris Powell when we won the league. There was a real I was able to talk to a few of the players back then. I was a lot younger, and they would do some of those community events, and you got to speak to a few of the players, and all of them spoke about the gratefulness of being there and the how grateful they were to be in that position, to the privilege of playing as a professional footballer and embracing the community side of the life because they realised how important it was, and that was embedded from Chris Powell down. And it feels very similar with Holden, and in a very different way, but that similar mentality of that it's not just what you have to do on the pitch, but you have to engage with the fans. You have to help do that community work and build that sort of community that we're so proud of at Charlton. And he really has embraced the specific Charlton identity and is, I think, really tasking the players with doing the same, which is, I mean, is all you sort of really want, you know, that actual engagement, that it's not just football. You can be incredible and do everything tactically and coaching, but if there's not that connection, then there's always going to be an element of distance. And he's really seems to be doing both, improving us tactically while also improving that connection a great deal.
Excellent stuff. Well, Ryan, thanks so much for joining us as this week's guest fans. Good luck to the season for Charlton Invicta as well. We'll try and keep tracks with how you're getting on, and hopefully we'll see you guys again later on in the season. Cheers, Ryan, for joining us there on Charlton Live. And just very briefly before we log off, because it's nearly 11 now. Newport on Tuesday, Joe. What sort of side are you expecting to see?
Well, probably Egbo, probably Eden, probably the likes of Taylor coming in to get some minutes. Probably Kanu and Kirk as well. I think it's going to be quite a change side, and I think it's difficult, isn't it? I'm not that fussed about the cup. If we can make a go of something in the league, but right now we do need to get through. We need to get through these rounds so we can get the minutes in the legs for various people, and we got the EFL trophy as well. So yeah, a lot of changes is what I'm hoping for, because we need to be fresh and ready to go on Saturday. And a few of those players look really leggy towards the end, and I wouldn't like us to be picking up injuries to key players this early in the season. And I wouldn't mind actually seeing us try a bit of a different formation as well, in that sort of more risk-free environment, so that we've got a couple of other tricks up our sleeves as we go through into the season. But I imagine it's going to be a 3, and I imagine just those players that need those minutes, the likes of the new signings and Hector, who's had a couple of problems, will probably come in, and Eisted too. So yeah, I think it would be an interesting game to watch, because I'm not 100% sure at the minute and the strength in depth. And it probably might be a last chance for a couple of these players to claim their place in the squad for the rest of the season. So you imagine it'd be quite a competitive game, with people putting their bodies on the line.
Yeah, really looking forward to it, actually. I think we've sold quite a lot of tickets for that, so there'll be a good number down there. It must be our first visit to Rodney Parade. I can't remember us ever playing there before. Yeah, so looking forward to that one. Right, we've gone over time, so we're going to end the show here. Thanks to everyone who's joined us live on YouTube, or if you've listened back either via our YouTube channel or via the podcast. Thanks for getting involved. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're edging ever closer to 1,000 subscriptions, which in the space of about 4 or 5 months, I'm really pleased with. So thanks to everyone who's got involved on there. Tom and Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you guys as always.
Cheers, lads.
Yeah, great to be back. Cheers.
Yeah, good to speak to you. Thanks, of course, to Ryan, who was our guest fan as well earlier on in the show. I'm Louis Mendes. Thanks for listening to Charlton Live, sponsored by the British Institute of Kitchen, Bedroom and Bathroom Installation. Don't forget that we shall be back on Thursday. We shall see you then.
Charlton Live.